It is my pleasure to welcome to the podium to address you Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda and Minister of Finance and Corporate Governance, the Honorable Gaston Browne.
Thank you very much, Mr. Master of Ceremony. I acknowledge our distinguished Governor General, His Excellency Sir Rodney Williams, Speaker of the House, Alicia Williams-Grant, or President of the Senate, rather, Alicia Williams-Grant, Speaker of the House, Sir Gerald Watt, colleague ministers, members of the Diplomatic Corps, to include Ambassador Brian Stuart Young, other distinguished officials, ladies and gentlemen. I'm absolutely delighted to be part of this groundbreaking ceremony, marking the establishment of the Special Economic Zone to be pursued by the YIDA International Investment Group and the Government of Antigua and Barbuda. This groundbreaking represents the second of two groundbreakings within the last 5 days. And I'm told by a former member, or a member for that matter, of the former administration, that perhaps several members of the former administration are now very teary-eyed. But ladies and gentlemen, it is clear that there's an economic revolution taking place in this country, a renaissance. And I'm very pleased to be the leader of this country at this very exciting time in which we've seen a plethora of investments coming on stream. In fact, the most significant of those investments is the YIDA International Investment Group $2 billion United States investment project. Now, the discussions about this project started about 18 months ago when I was first introduced to Mr. Yida Zhang. He was introduced to me by two Antiguans, Ambassador Hesse and Ambassador Bustani. That discussion took place at the time at the office of the Leader of the Opposition. I was told that there was a prospective investor who wanted to have a brief word with the Leader of the Opposition. So Mr. Yida Zhang and his team visited my office on Market Street, and what initially was intended to be perhaps a 5-10 minute exchange turned out to be a long discussion about the development of our country. Now, apparently at the time, Mr. Zhang had some concerns, having spoken to members of the former administration, as to whether or not they had the commitment, the vision, and certainly the determination to preside over a transformational plan for this country. At the time when we spoke, I was not aware that Mr. Zhang was actually testing my commitment about the development of this country. In fact, the first question he put to me at that time was, what was my vision for this country? And I said to him without any hesitation that my vision for this country is to transform Antigua and Barbuda into an economic powerhouse in the Caribbean. He then asked me, how do I propose to transform Antigua and Barbuda into an economic powerhouse? I said to him clearly, I cannot do it alone as the leader of this country, or the leader of the opposition and prospective leader of the country, but certainly with the support of the people and the help of God, we will transform Antigua and Barbuda into an economic powerhouse when we assume the governance of our country. He asked me for specifics as to how I would go about leading this transformation. And I said to him at the time that we will attract significant investments to this country and that we will increase trade. Trade in services and trade in physical goods. Now, when we spoke about trade in physical goods, he evidently knew that Antigua and Barbuda was a very small country without any natural resources, or few natural resources, and very limited human resources. And his question again was, how are you going to achieve that? So I said to him, Excellency, we would make sure that Antigua and Barbuda becomes part of the international value system. In that we will make sure that we add value to whatever primary products are being produced in other countries. And that China itself represents fertile ground for us to ally ourselves with China as the perhaps supermarket of the world, to partner with Chinese entities, and to ensure that we can add value here in Antigua and Barbuda so that we become a significant part of the international value chain. Mr. Yida left my office, and then I believe a week later, I got a call from Ambassador Hesse confirming that he had agreed to pursue his investment and that I was his prime minister. And by the way, let me apologize for not acknowledging his lordship, Bishop Richards. My apologies. So that was really the genesis of the discussions as to how we should go about transforming this country into an economic powerhouse. Mr. Zhang, or Zhang at the time, had indicated that he was about to spend about 70 million US dollars to acquire some real estate on the island, assets that were part of the Stanford receivership estate. And August of last year, after we won the government, with the full confidence and backing of the government, and you will recall that practically our first day on the job, we signed off on this deal, because incidentally, in opposition, we had a memorandum of understanding. And it is instructive that the Yida group did not sign with the government at the time. They signed with the opposition. So by the time we got into government, it was easy for us to upgrade the memorandum of understanding into a memorandum of agreement, which is a binding document. So the first day on the job, we signed off with the Yida investment team, and that investment, or the prospects of that investment, literally sent shockwaves throughout the Caribbean and beyond. So today, I am very pleased that we have now embarked on this groundbreaking ceremony, which will signal the start of what will be the most exciting development project in the Caribbean. Now, I've said to the developers that we do not want to have a situation in which they start and stop. It is very, very important that this project continues and that the Yida Group continue to provide leadership, because we see this project as a leading project within the Caribbean. And you cannot exercise leadership by starting and stopping. I have been assured by the principals of the Yida International Investment Group that they will start, they will not stop, they will build momentum until this project becomes the most significant, the most exciting project within the Caribbean. Now, I am aware that there are some environmental concerns about this project. And apparently there are some who believe that an EIA was never done covering the development of Guiana Island. I want to ask those individuals to liberate their minds of that fallacy. The reality is an EIA was done as far back as 1997, when the initial investor under the Asian Village project actually did an environmental impact assessment study. And that study is presently being upgraded. In fact, I understand they have actually contracted a local to upgrade that study. And what they're doing now at this point at Guiana Island is that they have just cleared a pathway to facilitate this groundbreaking. And before any construction would have started, they would await the further advice of the individual who is doing the impact study, or upgrading or updating the impact study. So I just want to assure the entire population that this development will be pursued, taking into consideration the environmental issues to maintain the ecology of the area, the pristine nature of the area. It is easily one of the most beautiful areas you'll find anywhere in the world. And I invite all Antiguans and Barbudans who have the capacity to travel by boat to visit that area. And it will be one of the unique selling points of this particular project. So the developers understand the need to maintain the pristine nature of the environment. However, it is well known that wherever there's development, there's likely to be some form of environmental impact. The issue here is about containing the impact and to make sure that this development is actually approached in a very responsible way, respecting the environment. But we cannot have a situation in which individuals take a fundamentalist position to say that if a few mangrove plants are removed, that makes the project an inappropriate project for Guiana Island. And I also want to make the point here that we respect the views of all individuals, even the views of the ignorant. But I want to make it abundantly clear that individuals, especially small minority groups with their fundamentalistic ideals, those cannot take precedent to the overall good of the country. And the reality is, we do have some small groups in this country who, if their, I don't want to call it enthusiasm, because in many instances the enthusiasm may be misguided, but certainly their fundamentalistic ideologies and even their own value systems cannot be allowed to take precedent. We have to make sure that at the end of the day, we run this country based on consensus, not on the primacy of any idiosyncrasy of any minority group. I want to make that abundantly clear. I've said time and time again that their concerns will be taken into consideration. But that does not mean you'll always have your own way. And there has to be some balance. And you must understand, too, that we have to, from time to time, as we proceed with these various developments, some fauna may have to be destroyed. But we're not going to do it indiscriminately. And let me make the point here, too. Again, not to sound arrogant, but with all respect to those who have concerns in the environment, we respect the positions that they have taken. We respect the commitment to the protection of the environment. But my government does not need to be schooled on the protection of the environment. In fact, there is no other government in the past that would have invested more in the protection of the environment than this present administration. And to give you some tangible examples, we have strengthened the legislative framework. We have passed a new Energy Act. We have also passed a new Environmental Management and Protection Act to ensure that we have the legal framework in which to manage the environment and to protect the environment. We have also invested 20 million United States dollars to acquire 10 megs of solar energy for this country. And we have also committed in excess of $1.1 million per month from the CIP funds to keep this country clean. And that is in addition to what is appropriated in the budget. So I say all that to say that my government intends to pursue development in a responsible manner to ensure that all developments are done on a sustainable basis. We have also made the case, too, that developers should also not only beautify their properties and the surroundings, but also to plant fruit trees as part of our Zero Hunger program. You want to make sure that if somebody is without food, they can probably pick a mango or guava at the side of the road instead of robbing and exposing themselves to danger or to jail time. So, again, you can be assured that our developmental strategy is a holistic one. It takes into consideration the social, the economic, the environment, healthcare, education. They are the pillars of our developmental strategy. But clearly, the economic push has to be strenuous in order to make sure that we deliver on that promise to transform this country into an economic powerhouse. And you recognize, too, that that vision has been articulated by the YIDA Investment Group. But that vision was developed right here in Antigua and Barbuda. And what has happened, that vision is like a magnet in that it has attracted a significant amount of investments to the extent that Antigua and Barbuda today is an investment paradise. And I would like to encourage all Antiguans and Barbudans to buy into this vision. A very stimulating vision, a vision that will help to unite us as a people, a vision that gives tangible value to what we're seeking to achieve for the people of Antigua and Barbuda. Ultimately, our development is about people. It's about our generation and future generations. And that is why we understand the need to ensure that we pursue development in a sustainable manner for not only the present generation, but for future generations. So the commitment is there, and it's important for all of us to work together than to have individuals who may want to utilize, let's say, minor environmental issues to stymie projects. In fact, some just want to be seen and to be heard. And then you have another group who I characterize as economic terrorists. And make no mistake about it, they exist. And unfortunately, that is one of the downsides of our democracy. That individuals who are in opposition believe that if an existing government is successful, that their time in opposition will be very long. So they try every single means possible in order to frustrate development. Well, I want to state here that our government is a participatory government. We listen, we take into consideration the concerns of all, but, as I said before, the primacy of our developmental thrust will stand with the majority of the people of this country, not any small interest group or individual. And I want them to respect that policy, make your objections, but at the same time, respect the laws of the country. I am told that on Guiana Island, that because there has not been any activity for the last 10 years, that the pathway, the entrance onto Guiana Island was overgrown with shrubs and with some mangrove, actually regrowth of mangrove at the entrance, which had to be removed in order to reestablish the entrance. I've asked the developers to ensure that they have a mechanism in place to ensure that there's no indiscriminate removal of the mangroves and other important flora on the island, because we want to make sure that we maintain the pristine nature of the island. But when individuals seek to break the law and decide that they're going to trespass on people's private property because a few mangrove plants have been removed to provide access, then that is where my government draw the line. Because at the end of the day, they are going beyond concern for the environment. As I said, many of them are motivated by politics. Many of them are economic terrorists, and I make no apologies about that. As a matter of fact, it has been proven before. Some of them just wish to be heard and to be seen, and you have others who are fundamentalists in their positions. And I want to say here in this country, we will not entertain any form of fundamentalism, not even religious. But on a more positive note, let us all embrace this project based on the opportunities that it will present to us. And just to give you an idea of the concept, this project is not only a tourism project, it is a multifaceted project that will provide for a number of international firms, especially Chinese firms to do business here in Antigua and Barbuda. So for example, there will be a manufacturing zone located in this project. You also will have a banking and funds management as well as insurance zone where you'll have companies located here within this zone. And what we will offer are a number of concessions, tax-free status or low tax status in order to attract them here. In fact, we intend to seek the assistance of the Chinese to at least have a double taxation treaty so that having them domicile here in Antigua and Barbuda in a low tax jurisdiction that they can actually reduce their tax liability. At the same time, doing business here, helping us to add value so that we can export. And I also want you to understand too that our government believes very strongly that we have the capital, the human capital, to become an economic powerhouse. And we are using that capital creatively to do a number of exciting projects already. I wouldn't get into the details of West Indies Oil Company, but that is one such initiative in which the people of Antigua and Barbuda, the cabinet and others, have utilized their creative energies to secure an asset that will eventually turn in a region of at least, I would say, $60 to $100 million in profits annually. And to give you an idea of the type of creativity, we have approached the government of Venezuela to assist us to develop oil fields in Venezuela, so that when we develop this park, this special economic zone here in Antigua and Barbuda, we could partner with Chinese entities, or even other entities for that matter, to develop other primary products in other countries, so that we cannot be constrained by the fact that we have limited resources. Our outlook, our vision is to make sure that we get into that international value chain. When you look at the total exports within the whole of the Caribbean, English-speaking Caribbean, it represents only about 0.15 of total global trade, including Trinidad's oil. Now, we can't just sit back and say that we're small and that we have constraints and we can't do anything. We must utilize our intellect, our human capital, and create opportunities. And opportunities for the empowerment of the people. We are doing this ultimately, not only for our generation, but for future generations, to set a new development paradigm, one in which we ensure that we get our fair share of global trade. So this project is extremely important. It gives us the opportunity to partner with a number of Chinese firms in different areas, in banking, in manufacturing, insurance, many sectors. And I believe today we will sign a sister city agreement, because the whole idea is to partner with other provinces in China to ensure that we can tap into their value system, to take their primary projects, bring them here, add value, and export. And when it comes to the Singularity Tourism Development Project, I guarantee you that that will be easily the most exciting in the region. They have the Hard Rock Group that will be managing one of the properties, comprising a hotel, restaurant, spa, and different amenities, which will be one of the finest in the Caribbean. So this project is extremely significant to the government and people of Antigua and Barbuda. And I take this opportunity in closing and pledging the continued support, the full support of my government, and to ask the principals of the YIDA International Investment Group to continue to provide leadership, to make this country proud of this flagship project, and to ensure that this project becomes a leading project and stays as the leading project within the Caribbean and beyond. I thank you very much, and do enjoy the rest of the